Hi, welcome back. In this particular lesson, we want to take a look at using the values that were entered from the user. So the last lesson we looked at how we input values or have the program accept input values from the user. Now we want to do some sort of mathematical operation on that as if you're creating something like a calculator, right? So say for example we want to add two numbers together. How do we do that? How do we have the user input values, add those two numbers together, and then print out the values and some of the problem we might run into? So let's jump into it. So here we have it. The last program we did, we asked the user to enter a value for number 1, and we also asked the user to enter a value for number 2, and we were able to output what the values were, right? So let's say we want to add them together and give our answer maybe to something called answer. Let's call it answer is equal to num1 plus num2, and then we want to print what the answer was. So below this, print the sum. Let's do sum because it's sum of the two numbers. Sum of the two numbers is the sum. Yeah, the sum of the two numbers is, and we wanted to output the answer, which is ans, right? That's the name for a variable, and we don't need these. And let's see what happens, because logically this makes sense, right? We enter a value, so we enter, let's say, a number 10. We enter a second value, we enter a number 20, and we add those together. It gives us answer, and we're able to print out what the answer is, right? So when we run that, says enter a number, let's do 10. Let's do 10. Enter a second number, let's do 20, and the sum of the two numbers is 10 plus 20, and that is wrong, right? So what do you think is happening here? It's taking these input that we entered as text, so it means then we're able to combine text using the plus sign also. So what do we need to do to fix this issue? That's right, we need to convert from a string to an integer, which we did in an earlier lesson, right? How do we convert from string to integer? We could do that somewhere in between here, right? So let's change num1 into an integer, and we're changing num1 to an integer. We're also changing num2 into an integer. That should work now. So let's run it. It says enter a number, so 10. Enter a second number, 20. Notice now the sum of the two numbers is 30. Right? So now it's actually adding the number, because now it's working with integer as opposed to working with string. So what I want you to note here is that whenever you input values, it's going to input your value as a string value. So whenever you're taking input from the user, it takes a string value. So if you know that you're working with numbers, and if you want it to be a particular type of number, if you want it to be an integer, it means that you must convert it from string to an integer. If you want it to be a float, it means that you must convert it from a float to, from a string to a float, right? And so just note that we have to convert our numbers if we're working with numbers as an input value in Python.